Friends, welcome to the Manish Tiwari show. As you know, my show is about multicultural Britain and people who live here from different parts of the world, different diaspora. One of the major diaspora is the South Asian Indian diaspora. And Indians, they are one of the fastest growing migrant base in the United Kingdom. NRIs or non-resident Indian live in two worlds. A lot of them also have their base in India as well as United Kingdom. Today, I have on my show a very important person who represents Indian banks, who are the backbone of Indian economy. And for a lot of Indians even living here, they have huge deposits, huge savings back in India. Indian banks have survived, rather thrived, through all the different global crises, including the 2008-2009 crisis, when a lot of the international banks, including some of the leading American banks, friends, you would remember Lehman Brothers, and all those of the same ilk, they had to be rescued internationally. American banking system was at crossroads and at crossfire. In the United Kingdom, we had a crisis even deeper. We had to save and bail out banks, and almost in some ways, without using the word nationalization, we had to give them government backing. So banking system is fundamental to economy, to a nation's economy, and to the security and safety of businesses in that country. Last week, 19th of July, when we celebrated what we call now Freedom Day in the United Kingdom, many moons ago, or rather half a century back, in India on 19th of July 1969, banks were nationalized. And that happened at that time under the leadership of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who was the Premier of India. And it was much to the relief of the Indian middle class, as a lot of banking failures had happened in 50s and 60s in India. Banking system was at question, and Indira Gandhi took a bold and brave step. Now, after almost 52 years, we have a different, should I say, a different orientation from the current government, from the current regime, who are looking at privatization. We already know about the incoming, or rather pending, privatization of the Indian carrier, Air India, which is pretty much on the cards. But also the Indian banking system has been rumored to be nationalized, to be denationalized, or rather privatized, and to be given to private partners or private institutions. Something which is, to my conscience, not easily admissible. We have in the show today Mr. Soumya Datta, the General Secretary of All India Banking Association, Bank Officers Confederation, AIBOC as it is known. And he's also General Secretary of All India State Bank Officers Federation. So a very important post, and someone who has a huge, should I say, responsibility, a significant voice, and a huge sense of duty towards Indian nation in how Indian banking system progresses or the steps which are taken. Mr. Datta is spearheading the mass movement, Bank Bachao, Desh Bachao. And that reminds me of an earlier slogan from Indira Gandhi, but I won't get back into that. But Bank Bachao, Desh Bachao is Mr. Datta's slogan. And he is, I believe, against the privatization. And today we're going to talk to him, and we're going to understand from him what the Indian banking system stands for, how it serves the nation, how it serves the Indian nation, the largest country, largest democratic country with 1.3 billion population, what it means to them, and what the impact of, if at all, privatization happens, what will be the impact on Indian middle class. Mr. Datta, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Manish. It's a privilege to be a part of your show. And I greet all the viewers of Indian diaspora in particular, who are perhaps anxiously waiting to hear what transpires during the show. Because as you rightly said, they have their roots in this country, and a lot of inflow of foreign investment is happening through the channel of NRI people. That is actually fostering the growth and development of this great country.
Sir, yeah, as you rightly said, NRIs take huge pride in their Indian background. As you would know, there are 40 million NRIs or Indian origin people all over the world. United Kingdom obviously has extremely close ties. A lot of us are first generation migrants, and we still consider India as our homeland, primarily in the sense that India provides us our cultural identity. In today's time, a lot of Indians living in the UK, they have bank accounts in India, they have huge savings, and they also invest in pensions and retirement money back in India. There are popular schemes from Indian banks such as State Bank of India, ICICI Bank for NRIs. And all the Indian banks, as you would know, are present here in London. Most of them have offices here. They have branches. For instance, State Bank of India has a significant number of branches in the United Kingdom. And they've been existing here for almost 100 years. In fact, State Bank of India in the United Kingdom was established in 1921 as Imperial Bank, as you would know. And this year is their centenary year, so there are celebrations of that going on as well. So my first question to you, sir, as we all aware that a lot of banks went insolvent in the 60s, and then in 69, on 19 July 1969, they were privatized. Why is the present government trying to walk back? What do you think is the motive? I mean, for me, a decision can be based on various reasons, but what, in your view, is the motive behind it?
See, basically, that's a very interesting question that you have posed. Let us first, that is the question that people of the country are asking. I mean, why does the government want to sell the public sector banks in the first place? Are they not serving the public purpose anymore? Or will the profitability increase under private ownership? And who will apportion the profits? Will the depositors' money be safer under the private management? Are the private sector banks more quote-unquote efficient than the public sector banks? These are the basic questions, the fundamental questions that people are asking. Now, if you look back to ask why the present dispensation is trying to privatize, and what is the... See, let us go back to 1969, as you rightly said. It was the decision of later Madame Gandhi that practically was the revolutionary decision that changed the economic map of the country. You say that 19th of July is celebrated as Independence Day. Many people hold that 19th of July 1961 was actually the financial Independence Day. Right? As it, particular decision changed the entire economic, as I said, India became self-reliant because of that particular landmark decision. Now, as I said, the government must answer those questions before they go ahead with their so-called move of privatizing the public sector banks. Now, let us go back to 1969. When 1969 this act, the proposal was mooted by Madame Gandhi, the political party that opposed nationalization was Bharatiya Jan Sangh. So we have to understand the present ruling dispensation.
Sorry, sir.
Philosophy remains.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? I just want to clarify. Did you mean to say that Bharatiya Jan Sangh opposed nationalization?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
You can check up on the net.
Okay.
Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a very powerful argument in the Lok Sabha. Why the banks should not be nationalized. Okay. And it was ultimately went to Supreme Court, and the matter ended only in 1972. So we have to, it is an ideological approach that looks at bank nationalization as the quote-unquote historic blunder. Now, let us understand, as you rightly say, what happened between 1947 and 1969. What was the scenario prevailing at that point of time? Banks were closing left, right, and center. I mean, overnight they failed. People lost their money, entire life savings worth. People were committing suicide because of bank failures. Number of branches were coming down. And very interestingly, if you look at the ownership of the bank and the ownership of the industry, you find that it was a cross ownership. Around 150 people who were on the board of directors of those banks were also the leaders of the industry. So there was a cross ownership of ownership between the banks and the industry, which was very harmful. It was inimical for any economic purpose. Now, let us understand what was happening in the rural India. So, as I recollect from memory, if my memory tells me right, there were around 8187 bank branches at the time of nationalization, out of which the rural branches accounted for only 1443. Now, this branch from 8187 till September 2020, the total bank branches were around 1,60,827.
Wow.
And out of that, the rural branches were around 52,622. So you can understand the focus on this rural India. Now, again, if I can give you one example, out of say 100 rupees of lending by the institutional finance, only 17 rupees went to the rural India. That shows predominantly the credit requirement was met by the money lenders. Now, this particular percentage of 17 went up to 62 in 1992. So it means that the institutional lenders, basically the public sector banks and the regional rural banks, they eliminated the local rural money lenders to a large extent, who charge exorbitant rates of interest. Now, of course, this share has recently fallen. Gradually, there's a shift. Once again, we find a growth of the share of the rural indigenous money lenders. Now, in fact, the outstanding creditors, say, increase thousands of times from say 3987 crore in 1969 to a staggering 147,267,53 crore. That is 75% of the gross domestic product. It all happened due to this vision of Madame Gandhi that changed the entire economic scenario of the country. Now, this is the basic fundamental concept behind nationalization that I think John Maynard Keynes has said. I am a student of economics. He said that capital homegrown. Other sectors can be, you can get it from foreign like hospitality and other things. But finance capital should be homegrown. He also interestingly had made a very interesting observation, which I'll come to sometime later. But he has said that if you go to a bank, say 2,000 rupees, say a lakh of rupees, or a few lakhs, the headache is yours. But if you owe the system thousands of crore, then the headache is of course the institutions.
Sure.
So this is in a nutshell the scenario how the nationalization has changed the landscape of the country. We are talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat now. That is a jargon we are coming to here. But basically it is a Bank Nirbhar Bharat. Because whatever schemes in the last 2 years, particularly after COVID times, all economic relief packages, more than 95% was disbursed and implemented by the public sector banks. You talk about Jan Dhan accounts, the most touted Jan Dhan accounts, 42 crore Jan Dhan accounts. 97% were opened by public sector banks. So these are some of the statistics that I wanted to share with the viewers. So why on earth would any sane person would suddenly wake up on the wrong side of the bed and think, okay, this is a time to privatize the public sector bank? And also, there's another very interesting feature. That is another statistical jargon. In the last 2 years, the corporate taxes have been reduced. All the world over, corporate taxes are being increased to meet the social responsibility. Here in India, we find the corporate taxes are reduced every year. The gross tax collection has reduced by 2.19 lakh crore, that is like trillion. So, and very interestingly, the disinvestment target by selling of public sector banks has been pegged by the Honorable Finance Minister as 1.75 lakh crore. It's only a seventh standard student knows that the right hand side must bend to the left hand side. So there's a fiscal part of it. So whatever it is, it is to prop up the crony. I use this term crony corporate houses who owe the system millions and trillions of rupees. Actually, the government wants the ownership of the bank to be transferred to these corporate houses, which are claiming their pound of flesh. So, I mean, I'm open to more questions.
So basically, what you're saying, and I think I was going to ask you this anyway. India as a country, we've seen development, we've seen growth, irrespective of whatever government was there. Mostly for a long time it was Congress, but we had BJP and different political parties ruling. But in spite of whatever the situation was, we've seen consistent growth. Howsoever, there's one fundamental question, which is, as you rightly pointed out, crony capitalism. That seems to be something which seems to be running into the system. And whosoever is the favor of the day, and without naming them, but you would know who I'm talking about, the two of the biggest corporate houses in India today, you exactly know who I'm talking about, the big names who are possibly running the biggest businesses. They essentially are backed by the government. And of course, when they're backed by the government, they're backed by the government banks and the rest of the government systems. And that is something which has been the norm, not just now, it was before as well. So I don't want to make it political. It's not about this government or the previous government, but this seems to be how the country seems to function, and nothing in that respect has changed. So what do you think? I mean, obviously we have this cases going on against Vijay Mallya in London, and the Indian banks seem to have made some significant strides. For the first time, they seem to be determined to do something about it. Now the question mark is always that are they pursuing a political agenda or they're pursuing a business agenda? So obviously the nationalists, the so-called nationalists in India are being for blood. They want him back, they want to do this, they want to do that. But in pure business sense, maybe it was a simple negotiation which could have been done with Mr. Mallya, and so on and so forth. I mean, he's not the only one. There are lots of cases where certain people who are not in the favorable books of the government have been pursued, but equally people who are in the good books of the government, they seem to be getting away. So how do we correct the system? I mean, nationalization or privatization is one aspect of it, but the malaise is, I think, there in the system. What do you have to say?
Sir, actually, this is a very interesting question. See, let me once again retrace our steps, to late 90s. All of us know that from 1991, there was a paradigm shift in the approach of the government. We heard of the famous, quote-unquote, LPG concept, liberalization, privatization, globalization. Now, there were development financial institutions which were, taking care of the long-term lending, like lending in infrastructure, in power projects. There was institutions like IDBI, ICICI, and we found that a reverse, nationalization sort of took place. From the development financial institutions, they became retail lenders. And suddenly, the public sector banks, which were only focusing on this retail and agricultural lending, they were asked to go for this long-term, developmental finance, long-term lending. And this is precisely what happened. All of a sudden, if I am a footballer, if I am suddenly asked to don pads and go out to bat, we don't have tennis fountains anymore who are equally. I mean, he was a versatile football player as well as a cricketer. Now suddenly, this change happened, and then there was this so-called boom in the 2000s, that financial bubble and all. And all this time, suddenly the public sector banks suddenly invested a long, huge amount, colossal amounts in infrastructure, power, and all this coal and other projects. Suddenly, they were settled with non-performing assets, and it was a humongous, humongous load. Now, as you rightly said, India was insulated from this global financial crisis because predominantly the public sector banks did not venture into those risky business. So India was well protected. We survived the brunt of the crisis. So it was only because of the fundamental pillars of Indian banking, that public sector banks, that bore the brunt of the crisis. Now, at the same time, after this, 2008-9 crisis, in the 2015-16, suddenly, all of a sudden, all the books of the public sector banks suddenly were splashed into red because of provisioning, and this started building up. There was this asset liability mismatch. Normally, the banks lend out for a small period of time. They take deposits for a small period of time. While they were lending for a long period, say 15, 20 years, there was this asset liability mismatch. And then after that, we are hearing a new jargon in the economic space. It's called haircut.
What is it called?
Haircut. Suppose somebody owes the system 100 rupees and he declares himself a defaulter, or he fails to repay the loan. Now, ultimately, a system is right. It's called the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. I think our illustrious, the names that you see, Vijamalia, Mehul Choksi, Modi, and people are only aware of only the three names. I can tell you with conviction that thousands of such Nirav Modis and Mehul Choksis who have fled the country, looting the public money in the last, say, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Successive governments have failed to do anything. Just
to give you some facts, there are more than 250 millionaires who have come to the United Kingdom alone from India.
Absolutely.
In the last few years.
And how many of them are willful defaulters?
We don't know.
No, nobody knows. Even the Reserve Bank of India is not willing to disclose their names. They think that if you will disclose the names of the defaulters, it will be bad for the Indian market, business market. We want to unmask this person. So now I was coming to this here, very interesting. Suppose somebody, ex-company owes us just 100 rupees. Now after this insolvency, bankruptcy code and NCLT, there's only of 20, 30 rupees. The rest they say is haircut. Banks have to absorb this haircut. Now I normally say that in the name of haircut, the entire body is chopped. Only a few strands of hair is offered to the bank. Okay, you accept this as the settlement. I have some very interesting data. Like say there is a company called Videocon. All of us are aware. Now, Videocon had taken a loan of 65,000 crore from the system, Indian banking system. And the banks are realizing only a little less than 3,000 crore. So you understand the tremendous hit the system is taking. And very interestingly, our government is proclaiming, tom-tomming, that IBC system has worked because 40% of the outstanding credit we have got now. They are totally silent that the big banks have to absorb 60% of the haircut. So out of every 100 rupees, 50% is going down the drain. And the government is coming out with a new concept called is a bad bank. Bad bank for the bad loans. Say all the banks have to pull up all their whatever bad loans to this particular bank, clean their balance sheet, and this bad bank will deal with these loans. Maybe the bank will get 15% only. Nobody knows what will happen. In the long run, suppose a company which has declared themselves to be insolvent may float another company and buy back their asset. So many interesting cases. Usha Ispat, Malvika Steel, IBM Bank, which is in the red, which is about to be privatized. They took a hit of nearly 80%. They had a haircut of 80%. And all these people are laughing all the way to their bank. Very interesting. How will you justify the asset of an iron steel company? It's even if it's sold at scrap value, can a company fetch only 40 crore out of an outstanding of 650 crore? I've been in the banking system for 3.5 decades now. I've seen hundreds and thousands of sick industries. I am yet to come across a single sick industrialist. I do not know what he looks like, what vehicle he uses. Does he take the auto or tempo, the rickshaw in India to travel? Or he travels by these Ferraris and Audis and whatnot. Do they live in apartments or jhoperies? Or they are owning this Stratfordshire, posh palaces in Stratfordshire. So we really are confused.
So Soumya, I mean, one thing I get a clarity while talking to you, that obviously the Indian system or the Indian banking system has worked largely in terms of the outreach, as you rightly said, that rural outreach has been huge. I mean, the system has progressed, it has served the people of India, the country has gone ahead, and at the same time, it has been insulated from extreme greed, which privatization in American banks, and we talked about the Lehman Brothers and the 2008 crash. So to large extent, it has worked, it has had good governance. Equally, it's prone to corruption of many kinds, which you and me discussed just now, and the fallout of it, and the political capital being made out of those cases as well. Howsoever, one thing which I want to touch upon, and you said in the beginning, is the rural India, how to certain extent it has been successful in eradicating certain practices in rural India, has made capital available, or has it not? I'm not too sure, but definitely it has managed to expand into rural India. Do you think it has worked successfully in helping rural India?
See, I'll tell you, there's a very interesting strategy. As I said, the rural branches were around 1943 to 1969. Now 52,600. Now there are 6 lakh villages. Now if you just work out the arithmetic, 87% of villages, they do not have banking facilities. India being such a vast country, the need of the hour was to bolster the public sector banking system, increase the number of regional rural banks. Instead, the government is shrinking the public sector space, merging the public sector banks, the regional rural banks, which also played a very significant role like making credit available to the self-help groups. Lakhs of self-help groups were financed by the regional rural banks. That has, we talk about women empowerment. I have witnessed how in interior of villages across the country, how the women have come up. I mean, this breaking the barriers, becoming financially independent, calling the shots, being the sole owning member of the family. This was all possible due to this public sector and regional rural banks.
And I would
I'll just give you an example.
I would also add the amount of jobs the Indian banking system has provided.
I'll talk about the job. I'll talk about the jobs.
Yeah. Sir, we're just going to take a short break and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Wanted, the bravest kids to discover the world with Paddington. Sign up today and every month your child will learn about the amazing animals, languages, games and food of a different country. Paddington will send them a wall map, postcard, stickers and a travel journal to track their adventure. And best of all, you'll be helping UNICEF keep children happy, healthy and safe. Just search Paddington's postcards or text MAP to 88600 to sign up today. Marmalade sandwiches not included.
It's for her. It's for him.
Let's go.
It's for them. If you aren't around. Life insurance from Legal & General starts from just £6 a month and could help support your loved ones financially if the worst happens to you. You'll also receive a £100 gift card after you take out cover. Life insurance. It's for them. Get your quote today.
Elephant Jackie Gold Atta is made from 100% whole wheat, which is packed with natural goodness, finely milled into very soft flour. It's naturally high in fibre, which helps with digestion and makes deliciously soft chapatis. Elephant Jackie Gold Atta, straight from our mill to your kitchen.
একটি স্বপ্ন, স্বপ্নের বাড়ি। আপনার বাড়ি নির্মাণের প্রয়োজন আর্কিটেকচারাল ডিজাইন, প্ল্যানিং, পারমিশন, নিখুঁত কনস্ট্রাকশন, লফট কনভার্সন, 6 মিটার এক্সটেনশন। অথবা নতুন বাড়ি বানাতে বা মেরামত করতে চান? ঝামেলামুক্ত ও বিশ্বস্ততার নিশ্চয়তায় আমরা আছি আপনার পাশে শুরু থেকে শেষ পর্যন্ত। সিডিএনসি ক্রিয়েটিভ ডিজাইন অ্যান্ড কনস্ট্রাকশন লিমিটেড, 0208 004 3327। আপনার স্বপ্ন এবার হোক সত্যি।
এই মহামারীতে সবচেয়ে ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত হয়েছে আমাদের সন্তানদের লেখাপড়া, তাই এক্সেল টিউটর্স দিচ্ছে সবার জন্য ক্যাচ আপ লেসন্স। সোশ্যাল ডিস্টেন্স সহ কোভিড-19 এর সকল নিয়ম মেনে ইয়ার 3 থেকে এ লেভেল পর্যন্ত সায়েন্স, ম্যাথস এবং ইংলিশে চলছে ভর্তির সুযোগ। আসন সংখ্যা সীমিত। এক্সেল টিউটর্স এর এক যুগ পূর্তি উপলক্ষে চলছে বিশেষ ছাড়। স্যাটস, জিসিএসসি এবং এ লেভেল রেজাল্টে 100% সফলতায় এক্সেল টিউটর্স। 167 Commercial Road, London E1 2DA, phone 020700114111।
আমার নাম আব্দুল্লাহ হাসুমন। সবাই আমাকে একজন সংবাদকর্মী এবং সমাজসেবক হিসেবে চেনে। সততা এবং বিশ্বস্ততা আমাদের প্রধান সম্বল, আর এই সম্বলটুকু নিয়ে শুরু করেছি জামান ট্রাভেলস।
জামান ট্রাভেলস মানি ট্রান্সফার, হজ এন্ড উমরা, কার্গো সার্ভিস আর যে কোনো এয়ারলাইন্সের টিকিটের জন্য একটি বিশ্বস্ত নাম। সঠিক রেট আর আপনার অর্থের সাশ্রয় ও নিরাপত্তা আমাদের প্রধান লক্ষ্য।
জামান ট্রাভেলসের সাথে থাকবেন।
জামান ট্রাভেলস, 387 হাই স্ট্রিট, ওয়েস্ট ব্রমিচ।
Meet the Grill Master in Birmingham. Quality grill foods at reasonable prices, free delivered straight to your door. For the best HMC, halal steak, kebab, burgers, grills and shrimp, call us at 0121-439-7550 or 0787-420-1225. 15 Munt Street, opposite the Small Health Leisure Center, Small Heath, Birmingham, B10 9SN. We're ready to serve you the most famous grill food.
আপনি কি জানেন ব্রিটেনের বাজারে এই প্রথম 100% গ্লুটিন ও নাট অ্যালার্জি মুক্ত মাদ্রাস প্লেন পাপাডাম পাওয়া যাচ্ছে? প্রতিটি পাপাডাম তৈরি হয় নিজস্ব ফ্যাক্টরিতে শতভাগ ফুড ও হাইজিন মেনটেন করে। সুলতান ও নবাব পাপাডাম উভয়ই গ্লুটিন ও নাট অ্যালার্জি মুক্ত পাপাডাম। সুলতান পাপাডাম 12 কেজি নেট ও নবাব পাপাডাম 15 কেজি নেট প্যাক। আপনার আশেপাশের ক্যাশ এন্ড ক্যারিতে আজই খোঁজ করুন। প্রস্তুতকারক ও আমদানিকারক ইনফিনিটি কমোডিটিস লিমিটেড।
Busy life. Who will take care of our elderly? But they gave us the best memories, the best care. Now it's our turn to care for our mom and dad. We need a helping hand. Every Care is providing private home care and healthcare staffing services in the UK since 1993. Our services: Every Care Romford,
বার্মিংহামের লজেস রোডে Zamzam Islamic Store, the largest Islamic superstore in Birmingham for all kinds of ladies garments, varieties collection of hijab, designer abaya, a huge range of men's jubba, largest stockist of famous Al-Noor brand with quality and choice of sizes. It's Zamzam for Hajj and Umrah, A to Z. We have everything you need.
লজেস রোড জমজমে আপনাদের সবার দাওয়াত রইল, আমাদের সেবা গ্রহণ করেন।
For all your Islamic shopping, it's Zamzam Islamic Store, Lodges Road, Birmingham.
আপনি কি পূর্ব লন্ডনে বাংলাদেশি খাবার খুঁজছেন? বাংলাদেশি মজাদার খাবারের স্বাদ পেতে আজই চলে আসুন আপটন পার্কের কফি মুন রেস্টুরেন্টে। এখানে পাবেন সকালের নাস্তা, চা, কফি, স্পেশাল বিরিয়ানি, বাংলাদেশি মাছ, মাংস ও নানা রকমের ভর্তা। বিয়ে, জন্মদিন সহ বিশেষ আয়োজনে আমাদের রয়েছে স্পেশাল ক্যাটারিং সার্ভিস। কফি মুন রেস্টুরেন্ট, অ্যাড্রেস 10 ক্রিসেন্ট রোড, লন্ডন E6 1ED। ফোন 0203015928।
Welcome, friends. We have today with us on the show Mr. Soumya Datta, who spearheads the movement called Bank Bachao Desh Bachao. He's the secretary of All India Bank Officers Confederation, known as AIBOC, and also the general secretary of All India State Bank Officers Federation. Mr. Datta, welcome back to the show. Before we went into the break, we were talking about rural India, but what is equally important is the middle class. The Indian middle class, which hugely depends on its savings. Savings are the lifeblood for most of them. I was born into a middle class family, and I understand how important that every bit of money which we had into any of these accounts or government bonds, or in those days even post office savings, how important that was and how it was counted upon. Inflation has gone up hugely in the last 15-20 years. In fact, the rate of inflation is a little bit threatening. People who are not prepared for it, especially the pensioners who are not prepared for it, who are relying on their pensions, are at risk. I mean, they can't afford the same lifestyle which they retired upon, or even can't afford some of the basic amenities in today's time. So my question is that if, for instance, the privatization goes ahead, do you think there will be any safety net? There are things like, since 1995, I believe the pensions have not been revised even for bank employees. So what do you think is happening? Is there the government, or the present government, let's make it really focused, are they focusing or they're not looking at all this, they're not possibly their vote bank? I don't know how they look upon the country. I mean, there's too much emphasis on this kind of this whole macro cultural identity issues about and a bit of this whole patriotic fervor, but in real sense, issues which matter to us, to all of us, seem to be getting ignored. So what is your view and how this needs to be corrected upon?
Manish, that's a very pertinent question. Let us first understand, ask ourselves why. As you said, about the safety net. Now, since, nationalization, so many cases of private banks failing, all of them, predominantly, almost all of them were bailed out by the public sector banks. The last being the Yes Bank, which was bailed out by State Bank of India.
Correct.
And it was a huge scam. Overnight, suddenly the deposit was found there. They could not withdraw money beyond 55,000. It was a shock even for the employees of the bank that suddenly the embargo had come. Now we are forcing such a situation. This government's philosophy, the government has no business to be in business, quote unquote.
And was it not the slogan that minimum government and maximum governance or whatever? Yeah.
Maximum, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it comes from Madam Margaret Thatcher. She had something like that.
Yeah.
Now, our fundamental question is: government has no business to be in business. Why then are ministers of political parties? We can have bureaucrats running the country instead of politicians, political parties. If the government is there, if the minister is there, if there's a prime minister, if there's a finance minister, then why then there would not be public sector banks? Or for that matter, the other insurance, the public sector insurance companies, the defense, the coal, everywhere, you name it. During this troubled time, whenever there is a calamity, the public sector has come to the fore. Now, I'm coming back to your question. 2 years, 3 years back, 3 years back, the government wanted to introduce the AIBOC bill, the Depository Regulatory Insurance Bill, and it created shockwaves across the country. Suddenly, people woke up to the realization that their money was not safe in the bank anymore. The government was trying to wash off their responsibility. Now, this is the main mantra of privatization. During this particular parliament session, they are going to increase the deposit insurance covered, say from 1 lakh to 5 lakh. And the finance minister will proclaim 95%, 98% of people's money are safe because all the balances are less than 5 lakh. But she's not saying, as you rightly said, the middle class. What about the NRIs? Suppose there is no public sector bank, the stamp of sovereignty is not there. If tomorrow a bank collapses, like Lehman Brothers, as you said, n number of examples, what will happen to the people who have parked their entire life savings in the bank? That is precisely the fundamental question that we are posing. That is the cause of worry. People are coming to us asking, is our money safe? If the banks are privatized, the pensioners who live off their pension, with every passing month, the deposit rates are coming down. And they are unable to make both ends meet. The expenditure outweighs the income. And social security will be hit. As you say, the bank pension has never been enhanced, never been revised. The government pension is revised with every salary revision, every pay commission. But there are, say, around 1 lakh odd bank pensioners who even the top MDs and chairmen of banks, they are going a paltry pension of 15,000-20,000 rupees per month. That's a pittance.
That's a pittance, yeah.
After heading an institution and retiring because of the longevity has increased, my lifespan has increased, but then they cannot make both ends meet. And the first thing will be hit is the social security. The bank pensioners, if the banks are privatized, the board will not have any moral right to fund this pension accounts.
So in the
Just want
United
the money
Kingdom,
immediately.
Mr. Datta, so in the United Kingdom after the 2008 crisis, so the banks guarantee you, I think it's 85,000 pound, which will be roughly
Right.
80 lakh or something close to
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right.
What is the amount in India? Which is
It
there
was 1 lakh. This bill has come to raise the ceiling to 5 lakh.
okay, but is 5 lakhs a significant amount in today's time?
Absolutely not. You discount the inflation.
Mm-hmm.
See how the middle class has grown. The middle class has grown in the last 10, 15 years.
Because
The per
5
capita
lakh,
income has
5 lakh possibly would not afford you,
absolutely.
any
Particularly
decent housing.
the NRI viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, 5 lakh is a maybe it's a remittance per month, maybe.
Possibly. Yeah, a lot of them. Absolutely.
A lot of them,
Yeah.
You see the inflows coming. So that is a cause of real worry.
Hmm.
Real worry. And the government, they do not want to address this particular issue. They just want to wash the hands off of this humongous responsibility.
So, my question would be going forward,
Yeah.
what do you think should be the policy for Indian private banks versus state banks or state owned banks in terms of how they operate? I mean, privatization or not, I mean, I sincerely hope that the privatization does not go ahead. And from our conversation, I strongly feel that there's a lot of opposition to it, and possibly it would not be an easy cakewalk for the government. But what do you think the balancing act should be as a state policy towards banking? Because there are a lot of private banks as well in India who seem to be doing well and who seem to be working better. And then equally, there's small cooperative banks who seem to have collapsed as well, from what I remember in the last few years. So, what do you think is the right way?
See that going forward. See, just look at the number of bank branches. If I'm not mistaken, there are around 300 banks in United Kingdom, around 50 odd building societies.
Correct.
In USA, there are around 4,500 banks. In Germany, it's around 1,900. What about India? How many banks are there? It's less than 100. I mean, see, a population of 134 being serviced by just a few banks. This tremendous. See, the bank mergers have taken place. Mega merger was last year. Out of 10 banks were collapsed to 4 banks. Now, collectively, the 10 banks have 37,500 bank branches. Now, under the garb of this rationalization of bank branches, even if 10% of bank branches close down, it will mean that 3,700 bank branches will be closed down. Suppose each bank has 1,000 customers, then 37 lakh customers will either have to find a new bank branch or a new bank. Now, as I said, going forward, in the bank board, in all the banks board, it's mandatory as per the Banking Regulation Act. There has to be an employee director as well as an officer director. The bank board, as we are the major stakeholders. Now, this government has deliberately stopped the appointment of board of directors. From AIBOC, we have heard the case in Delhi High Court. The government goes through the motion of due diligence. Names are being cut from the banks, but no recommendation ever sees the light of the day. From 2017, there is no representative on the boards of the bank. Now, all the banks need professional personnel who would be taking the policy decisions. There are government representatives, there are RBI representatives. And if you finger point to the bank for a loan going bad or some bank, the government cannot shrug off their responsibility. Neither can Reserve Bank of India as the apex regulator of the country. Their representatives were on the board. They also made it sure that there was no opposition, no room of dissent. This government do not enjoy. Enjoy is a loose word. They muzzle dissent, choke the dissenting voices. So there should be no opposition in the bank's board challenging any policy decision. So you have to professionalize the bank's board, give them leeway, give them the freedom, and of course, all the banks, if you go through the balance sheet of all the public sector banks, they have practically all the banks have registered profit. Even the first quarter result, all the banks are declaring. Tomorrow, State Bank is coming out with the result. Tomorrow, on 5th, State Bank is coming out with the result. It's going to be a bumper number, I'm certain of it. So all these banks, even say Central Bank of India, which was the names have been floated around for no reason, that supposedly selected as one of the prime targets of privatization, they have also registered any profit. So all you need to good governance, focus, and of course stringent laws to recover the monies. Recover the monies. 60% of the credit is being taken up, going down the drain. And these corporates, as I say, are laughing all the way to the bank. Each day the profits of so-called XYZ companies are multiplying manifold. While each day the difference between have and have nots are, are enhancing. Every day, so many people becoming multimillionaires. Every day, 7 lakhs of population, they are below the poverty line. So this is a conundrum, it's a paradox. It has to be addressed.
It has to be, and we touched upon it earlier as well. The enormous role which all the Indian government banks provide in terms of giving employment in huge parts of India, where possibly there's minimum infrastructure. If there's a banking branch, it gives employment and keeps the economy. In a country like India, where employment means so much, so I think that aspect of the banking or yeah.
See what is happening. Railways and banking were predominantly the biggest employers of the country.
Correct.
When the banks have reduced their intake, many banks were there. This prompt corrective action because of the burgeoning NPAs, non-performing assets. They were prevented by Reserve Bank of India to recruit people for almost 5-6 years. So we have on one hand, so many bank branches, you have limited personnel, and there's a gap between, say, you have people you find people in their early 30s, and finally I find another set of people who are in their mid 50s. Now there's a lack of experience, and also banking provides employment to the SC, ST, and OBC.
Correct.
For social justice.
Social justice.
Bank has provided employment to enhance their position, to uplift them, as was envisaged in our holy constitution. Social justice. So that will take a serious step. So all those issues are there.
So we are at crossroads. We are at crossroads, and there are certain things which
colossal understatement.
Yeah, so I mean, certain things which do come to my mind. Obviously, I'd like to ask you, what would be your message for NRIs? NRIs have enjoyed huge returns from India in post-liberalization. And I do remember in the early 2000s, from 2001 to 2004-05, there was a boom time. There was a boom time in 90s. So people who invested money, or even who used the Indian banking system for simple things like safe deposits or high return deposits, they gained from all those things. And of course, in the Indian real estate and Indian stocks. Right now, there's a lot of skepticism within the NRI audiences. There are a lot of eyebrows raised. Do you think going forward it would be safe for NRIs to invest? It's a controversial question.
I would rather not answer this, but I leave it to the prudence of the NRIs to ask questions to the government, because their voice will be heard. On social media, if they vent out their anxiety, and if they say that in the national interest we need the national assets that are public sector banks, the pillars of Indian economy, they have to ask this question at all forums, at all fora. We have been this Bank Bachao Desh Bachao movement. We are involving common people. They are coming forward. Because of the COVID restrictions, people are unable to hit the streets. But a lot of activities on Twitter, on Facebook, where people are venting out their feelings. Hashtag campaigns are going viral. They are trending. And I'm certain the government has taken notice of this resentment, that there will be major opposition. And the elections in Uttar Pradesh is due next year. And what has happened in West Bengal is a reflection of the angst of the people. We have hit the streets. We are not affiliated to any political trade union or any central trade union. We have hit the streets during the West Bengal election. That we have held several street corner meetings.
So what you're saying is that the NRIs need to raise their voice.
In the ballot boxes.
So Mr. Datta, what you're saying is that NRIs need to raise their voice and reach
Absolutely.
out.
I would urge upon the NRI to raise their voice, to support the Bank Bachao Desh Bachao movement. And any support coming from any outside the country, I think will be louder. They will speak volumes, and the corridors of power, their voices will resonate.
So one of the things which I've noticed is, that your movement has been conspicuous by its absence on any of the media. So, for instance, there is certain media which are beamed here in the United Kingdom. Obviously the voice of pandemic has been much higher. The pandemic has taken all the media space, but equally, not many people have talked about the movement which you're spearheading. And the government certainly has refrained from in kind of creating any discussion forums or talking points. And as NRIs, we keep, very well abreast of what's happening, because there are a lot of leaders who come here from India. They all talk about investments, and investments seem to be the sole talking point, because they want to mobilize more people investing in India. They want to invite industries, but no one seems to be talking about issues like this. They don't want possibly media to have a conversation around it. Do you feel that the media has supported you in this movement?
I'll answer the question in two parts. One, if you see the mainstream media in India, who are the owners? They're all these corporate houses. And they will never cover any such event. Freedom of press, I would rather not go into that. A lot of statistics have been floated. What is the freedom of press index of the country? But then there are local channels, vernacular channels that regularly cover our movement. We are in the print media also. But then, of course, as you say, the COVID has taken. We have a dedicated Facebook page, Bank Bachao Desh Bachao, and YouTube channel, Bank Bachao Desh Bachao. I will request all our NRI viewers to kindly follow and share the page, Facebook page, Bank Bachao Desh Bachao, YouTube channel, Bank Bachao Desh Bachao. A lot of interesting things are posted where common people are sharing their views. In fact, we had a Kavis Sammelan where, the poets have come together supporting our cause. Some of the leading Hindi poets of the country.
Sure.
They had conducted a program with voicing the support for us. So support is pouring from all quarters. Only maybe it's not reflected in mainstream media because of the tight leash that government has.
So, Mr. Datta, I'll just like you to repeat again, the social media handles so that people can remember them.
Bank Bachao Desh Bachao Facebook page, YouTube channel Bank Bachao Desh Bachao. There are interesting videos being posted, very interesting clips, 50-second, 60-second clip, where the concerns of a senior citizen, where the concerns of an employment seeker. We have uploaded video, people can watch that. I mean, if it can propagate the message, to subscribe to those pages and share the content amongst the Indian diaspora, it will be a huge boost for the movement.
And also, I'd like to take a moment to remind viewers that yes, the Indian press freedom, as per the Press Freedom Index, which ranks 180 countries, has plummeted down. You know, it now ranks 142 out of 180, which for a democracy like India of 1.3 billion people is simply alarming. This is not fake news. This is a fact. And while I do not want to criticize any single political party, I would harp on this, and I would like to invite everyone who's watching this show to remind the government that press freedom and the media freedom is extremely important for their own good. Because anyone who capitalizes or, makes media part of the government functionary and tries to curb freedom is harming the democracy in a big way. Mr. Datta, so I hope that my show today is able to raise some awareness about a very, very critical moment in India's journey as a republic. I mean, we touch upon in the coming 2 weeks the 75th year of Indian independence. And what you standing up for today is equally important, if not the most important. It would define how India moves forward. Privatization or nationalization are fundamentally bothered about the health of the Indian banking system and its ability to support the common person, the lowest of the low, who lives in possibly rural India or urban India, people who possibly have the minimum amount of, who possibly live in and survive and with minimum wages. So it's really important, and the voice which you have raised today with your movement, Bank Bachao Desh Bachao, is a very, very important and significant movement for the running, for the successful running of this country. We talked about various issues related to banking, and one of the things which I also wanted to touch upon, and I think we still have a few minutes to go, so I think I should quickly touch upon that, is the fraud. Like there were reports that State Bank of India account holders lost a lot of money due to fraud in the system, and this is organized fraud. Yeah, is there something you would like to talk about that how Indian banks can secure the common man in today's time to ensure that such things don't happen? Because it's heartbreaking sometimes when you hear things like a pensioner or an old person being duped by someone on the phone using some technology and robbing them of their money. So this is something which I would like to draw your attention upon, and the responsibility of Indian bank and the banking system to secure.
This is a very pertinent question. This is something we are facing day in and day out. There are hackers, there are fraudsters lurking in space, and people are gullible. And out of every 100 calls, even if one call, people share their password, their OTPs. India, we have this system that you cannot use your card unless you OTP. Something is not there in UK. If you want to withdraw money, one OTP will come. If you want to use, say, above 10,000 State Bank ATMs, if you want to withdraw money, there will be an OTP, which will be in your mobile. So we have sort of insulated, but then if people are gullible, so let us tell all viewers, they can share this with their relatives. The bank never asks for passwords or OTPs, or they should not click on any link. There's an ingenious method going on. something you have ordered something, don't tell that sorry, it's a online purchase. Sorry, we cannot deliver your food. We are refunding your money. We're just sending you a link. Even for this online food delivery,
Yeah.
they are sending a link asking you to click, and people without hesitation they click on the link, and immediately their accounts are the money starts flowing out. And this is something that awareness needs to be created.
So thanks a lot, Mr.
My
Datta.
message to other people.
We've run out of time today, but I will remind the viewers again to take note of your words. And if there's any spurious call or any links like this, and if you related to your Indian bank accounts, be careful. Again, I'd like to remind everyone about the movement which Mr. Datta is spearheading, Bank Bachao, Desh Bachao. It has got its Facebook page, YouTube page. Please come forward, because this is for the health of the Indian democracy, for the health of the Indian nation, and as NRIs, as responsible members of the world and of the Indian state, it's our responsibility that we look into this, because this is a critical point. This is a critical moment in the Indian banking system, in the Indian economy, and we need to raise our voice. So, Mr. Datta, thank you so much for being here today on my show. All the best.
Pleasure, privilege on my part to be a part of your show, Manishji. I'm really indebted to you for propagating the message as we stand at a very critical cusp of time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thank you so much, Noor.
আপনি কি জানেন ব্রিটেনের বাজারে এই প্রথম 100% গ্লুটিন ও নাট অ্যালার্জি মুক্ত মাদ্রাজ প্লেন পাপাডাম পাওয়া যাচ্ছে? প্রতিটি পাপাডাম তৈরি হয় নিজস্ব ফ্যাক্টরিতে, শতভাগ ফুড ও হাইজিন